But something I would love to find out more about now is your classical kicks, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
because obviously we started that thing sort of time back in 2012.
Yeah.
And for those that might not know about classical kicks, what is it all about? How did it start?
Yeah, so it started in 2012
Hmm.
as an idea that was born out of an opportunity that came
Hmm.
to me from Ronnie Scott's, and they said, "Look, we maybe want to start a classical night in our upstairs bar," which I think most people who are listening who go to Ronnie's, they know the upstairs bar is slightly more relaxed and kind
Hmm.
of different styles of music and anything goes really. And I was so excited about the possibility of doing classical night, and I think because of the nature of the venue, it was funny, Georgia. The name actually came to me first. I
Really?
don't know how it did, but I was sort of thinking, what could I call it that kind of feels right? And it just came. And I wish that it was like that with everything in life. Often you can imagine how many times you've had to sit and rack your brains for a name of a project, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
like, name of a song you've written, or, sometimes it takes ages. But with that, it did actually sort of just come. And I think that whole, I suppose, the feeling of the words classical kicks, it just imbibes everything we're about. So
Hmm.
ultimately, we are a collective of very open-minded, passionate musicians with a classical training, but a strong passion and a strong kind of discipline in other styles. And then we mix that with, different artists from across the board. So I always had this feeling that I wanted it to be, like pure Beethoven next to a rap artist with a beatboxer, so I never wanted it to be just Beethoven and Mozart or Ronnie Scott's. Sure, that would have been great, but it wasn't what I believed in only,
Hmm.
much as I love pure classical performance. So I think that's what has always given it its edge, because the nature of the performers and just the sheer talent of people that we've been so lucky to sort of feature and have on stage for us have been, that's kind of very much what we're about. I mean, our kind of family of musicians, it's incredible when I think back to some of them. I mean, the first night I'll never forget, we opened with, Tom Gould playing Chopin, like just like
Amazing.
a dream, just sort of, I'll never forget it, just this pin drop, and everyone was huddled round, and wine glasses chinking, and it was so packed. I mean, people like sitting on the floor, like right in front of his feet,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
kind of just this atmosphere. And we went from that to like Gabby Swallow and Genevieve Wilkins playing this kind of like crazy cello percussion thing. And Genevieve was 8 months pregnant, and I remember her being on
Wow.
the floor because she was playing
Yeah.
like hang drums on the floor,
Yeah.
and she was like bending over her bump, and it was just so
Oh,
cool. And then we had like, I think Chi Chi Winoku, amazing, she was there, and she got
amazing.
up and
Yeah.
played double bass with us. We did a big version of Libertango with like Morgan Szymanski and my kind of group back then with him, Machaka, and we had a Vietnamese accordion player, Phuong Nguyen, and I mean, it was just, someone once described it to me as like a tasting menu for classical music. So
Love that.
it has
Yeah.
that classical vibe, but then we'd always throw something in to slightly
Yeah.
sideswipe. And I think the best one that we've ever done, in the sense of just that complete sideswipe and everyone kind of going, what is,
Yeah.
and actually it makes me sad as well, because I mean, even talking about it, I'm thinking, God, are we ever going to go back to that time where people can be huddled?
Mm.
I'm talking about it with you, and I'm thinking, is that it then? Are we never going to have the potential in a venue to have people sitting at our feet and kind of being a
Mm.
bit close? And so I do hope, let's just hope that when the vaccine comes, it'll maybe make things back to what it was. But it just makes me appreciate it so much more, because
Exactly.
it's very hard to create an atmosphere with a socially distanced audience. It's just, this is the problem. It's not like the same. And I think it's true, audience members and performers. Of course, we want to perform. So anything we get offered or can do, we will do. But
Yeah.
all promoters and venues, I'm sure, would agree that it's just not the same. And I mean, the classic example was, we had I met a bagpiper in the Edinburgh Festival last year. I always go up every year to just see a few fringe shows, because obviously there's so much talent there, and I just love going to see what's going on. And I met this incredible guy called David, who basically had put on an incredible show about this piper who had sadly died a few years prior, called Gordon Duncan.
Hmm.
And it was basically a show about the life of this piper who was a complete and utter rock star, and he played things like AC/DC on the bagpipes.
Mm.
But because he was so ahead of his time, he got ostracized from the kind of community of bagpipers.
Yeah.
Would you believe it? It's a thing, but it was really sad, and they didn't accept him because he was so diverse and so boundary breaking, and they couldn't handle it. So he had quite a sad life, and in the end, he tragically he actually committed suicide in the end. And
Really?
it was such a sad story because so my friend David had basically written this one-man play about him, but David is also an actor as well as a bagpiper. So he'd done this incredible show in the Fringe, especially, you know, about this. And I cried. I mean, I watched the show. I just happened to be one of the things I booked. I thought, oh, that looks interesting, I'll go and see that. And I just wept. It was literally like one of those things where I was like, for an hour, I was like, oh my God, this guy,
Mm.
this story. So I said to him, listen, is there any chance you would consider coming to Ronnie Scott's, you know, and doing a version of, because the famous piece that he was tributing was Thunderstruck, that tune by AC/DC.
Yeah.
I said, would you consider coming to play this at Classical Kicks with like a string quartet, and we do it with like, you know,
Yes.
he did.
Yes, amazing.
So basically it was like, I mean, you can hear how excited I am now. I mean, I actually was almost too excited to announce it because we waited like right to the end of the the night. And, you know, anyone who's been to Classical Kicks, I mean, we always have like so much music.
I can imagine.
It's a bit mad. And basically, so it was sort of like, you know, 10:30 on a Sunday night, and basically yeah, I mean, it was just like everyone was like, okay, what's she got up her sleeve for the last thing?
Yeah.
So it's David Colvin. Sorry, forgive me, I was searching for his surname. I've got a lockdown brain. So David Colvin, very important to mention his name, and anyone who's listening, check him out because he's talented, so talented. Yes, so he came on full kilt, full regalia, like in the Scottish kilt with the whole thing, with the pipes, and everyone's like, what? And then we basically played AC/DC Thunderstruck with like string quartet, accordion, piano, drums, something. I'm sure there was a bass there. I mean, it was just carnage. It was so brilliant, you know?